every filmmaker should really be working towards building up one or all of these 3 points of leverage. I came across a great article recently that was an interview with Arnon Milchan, who is the owner of Regency, the production company based in the States. And he is a very accomplished producer. If you don't know who he is, check out his credits. But basically in this interview, he said that if you're an independent producer and you don't have money, you really have no leverage in the business. And he said that the only other way that you can gain leverage is maybe by having like a really bankable A-list level of cast that can essentially then help you finance that film. And so this got me thinking, well, what are the points of leverage that you can have as an independent producer to help you get your films financed? So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Alexi Ouzas. I'm a film producer and owner of Exile Entertainment, a production company based in Australia. And we finance and produce feature films. We've done 8 in the last 6 years, and we've helped a bunch more get financed and move into production. So the 3 points of leverage that I think any filmmaker can actually attain that are going to move the needle and are going to give you more leverage at the negotiating table, are going to make it easier for you to get your films financed and produced, are the following: finance, cast, and audience. So I'm going to take you through each of those and A, how I think you can attain them, B, give you some examples of people that have done it really well, and then C, hopefully give you some kind of takeaways of how you can go about trying to get those in place now. So the first one is cast. So if you can go out and attach a A-list actor to your project, then it's going to help you get finance. It's going to help you get distributors on board. It's going to help you raise private equity. It's going to help you get soft money if that's available. And it's just going to make the whole process a lot easier. And so there's 2 recent examples, one recent and one that's a bit older, that I'll give you. Both are Australian filmmakers. So there was a film made recently called Gold by a actor filmmaker. So he's a filmmaker and an actor, and he wrote this script and he wanted to direct it and act in it. And he managed to get in touch with Zac Efron, who was visiting Australia at the time, and he managed to get the project into his hands. He cast him in the film, and then that helped him basically unlock the finance that he needed to finance and produce that film. Now, I think that this is an example of leverage because it may have been harder for him to convince people to put up significant amount of finance for his project if he wasn't able to attach Zac Efron, right? Wanting to direct it, wanting to star in it as someone that has, isn't an A-list actor himself or an A-list director. Having an A-list actor on board gave him that leverage. Now, he also had a bunch of finance in place, right? So it's not like he just had the actor, he'd already raised a bunch of finance as well. So he had a combination of those 2 things, but once he got the A-list actor on board, that really unlocked it for him. Another example of this, which I've spoken about in previous videos, is The King's Speech, right? So the producers got the script to Jeffrey Rush through basically just leaving the script on his doorstep. He loved the script, wanted to do, I think he did the theatre production first and then he did the film. And so again, that just helped kind of start building a momentum for the film. That no doubt helped them attach Colin Firth, and that helped them raise the finance and get the film into production. So cast is important. Now, it's hard to get cast, right? Because if you're going through their agents, they want the finance already in place, and so that becomes a kind of roadblock for you. But what I've found, I think, from doing a bunch of research on this, is that the savvy producers are the ones that find the back channels. They find ways to get the script or the project in front of an A-list actor, not through their agent, but just them directly. Then they get them excited about the project, get them attached, and then go to the agent. Now, the agent might not love you, but that's we're not in the game to be loved by agents, right? We're here to make, finance, and produce the films that we want to make. So that's the first one, cast. The second one is finance. So if you've got money, I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever films you want. You're not beholden to anyone. And Arnon Milchan is probably the best example of this. He came into the film industry as a very accomplished, very wealthy business person. And so he had his own money. He was able to finance his own films, and he wasn't beholden to anyone else. He set up a distribution deal with a studio so that any films that they produced under his production banner would be guaranteed distribution, would be guaranteed marketing, and then he was able to just basically finance or co-finance films. So if you have the money, then really you've solved all the problems. Now, finance is probably the hardest of the 3 points of leverage to attain as an independent film producer, but it's absolutely one of them. The third one is audience, and I think this is something that's relatively new. I think that, maybe 10, 15 years ago, this really didn't exist like it does today because of the power of the internet, because of the power of social media. But if you have a built-in audience, then you can absolutely leverage that audience at the negotiating table, and you can, basically use that as a way to help you get your films financed. But B, you can leverage that audience when you're actually selling your projects, right? When your projects are being released, to make sure that those films are being seen. And by far the best example of this is Tyler Perry. So he built up a huge audience over a number of years that allowed him to walk into Lionsgate and pitch a film to them and have that audience as the backbone, and not just pitch the creative, but pitch that he had this audience, the audience was hungry for his content, that he knew he'd be able to reach that audience, and that helped him get Lionsgate on board, which meant that he was actually able to have access to their distribution network, to their marketing, to their P&A spend, and so that film was able to succeed at a really high level. And he was no doubt able to negotiate really strong terms because of the audience that he was bringing to the table. And if you read interviews with him, he says that his feature films actually, a lot of studios knocked them back, saying that there wasn't an audience for this type of thing. Wasn't an audience, but he was able to prove to Lionsgate that there was an audience because he had that audience already, and it just took one executive to really understand what he was doing to make that deal happen. So those are the 3 points of leverage. Now, if you're an independent producer, then I suggest that you go after points of leverage in this way. Number one, build an audience, because it's free to do, it's permissionless, and you can get started today. So focus on building your own audience, not an audience for your film, or an audience for you. So that's number one. Number two would be cast, right? If you can find some sort of back channels to A-list cast, then I would say that that's a time that is worth spending. And then the third one would be finance. Now, I'm putting finance third simply because I think it's the hardest to do, right? But I think if you have finance, it's actually the greatest point of leverage, likely out of those 3. And the ideal would be if you have a combination of all those 3 things. So if you have audience, if you have cast, and if you have finance, then you're really, there's probably not much that you can't do. And the best example of this, I think, is Reese Witherspoon and her company, Hello Sunshine. So she's an A-list actor, right? So she is the cast. But if you look at the people that are involved with her, right, they obviously spotted that she's an A-list actor. So that's really valuable. Number 2, she has a massive audience. And number 3, she has finance. So she was able to, raise finance to start that company, but now that company is established, she's been able to take on a huge amount of investment and really scale that company up. So that's a great example of someone that's combined all those 3 things to achieve that. And of course, if you're not an A-list actor yourself, think about ways that you can maybe do business with actors, right? There are people that are involved in that deal with Reese who aren't actors themselves, right? They're business people and they've spotted an opportunity and they're using those points of leverage to create a really valuable business. So that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or if you've got any comments, I'd love to hear what you think of these videos, this video in particular, and what you think of these points of leverage. So drop those comments in the comment section below. If you like the video, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a video. And that's it for this one, and I'll see you on the next one.